So in this episode, we're talking to Marcin and Cash, who are brothers who have 2 properties up and running. They're in one of the most saturated markets in the entire country, and we talk about how they've been able to stand out from the competition. We also talk about how to study the top performers and see what they're doing to add into our own properties as well. We also talk about the importance of having a clear vision and goal when you're starting your entrepreneurial journey. There's a lot of great things that we talked about, and I know you're going to get a lot out of this episode. All right, we got Marcin and Cash here, one of a couple of our top students here in the group. They've been actually absolutely crushing it. And you guys have 2 properties up and live now, right?
Yeah, we have a couple properties that we've got up and online on Airbnb and some of the other platforms.
Awesome, man. So yeah, let's jump right into it. If you guys don't mind, just kind of giving some background. First how you guys know each other, and then also you guys' backgrounds. I think that would be helpful for everyone.
Yeah, I'll take the lead. So my name is Marcin Young. We're here in Atlanta, Georgia. We're brothers. So this is my little brother. He doesn't look necessarily much like my little brother, but I'm 27. He's 25 or 23, I guess. 23, pretty bad on the age there. I guess caught wind of this maybe back in late summer. Just the idea of owning Airbnbs or Airbnb arbitrage, whichever path that you ended up going, or co-hosting and stuff like that. And then, I was doing some different things with my job, sales, for 5 years with a different company, and ended up getting out of it. I'm transitioned into a phase where I'm doing I'm a youth minister for my church, and then also are doing this on the side. And then my little brother can kind of take over for what his background is prior to this.
So yeah, I just got done playing college baseball, and I kind of took a little bit of time off just to kind of travel around and stuff. And yeah, I caught wind of it on Instagram. Actually, I saw you, and I kind of brought the idea to Marcin, and we kind of got after it. And now this is literally all I'm doing pretty much. I give some baseball lessons. We're grinding on this, and we've got 2 properties up, and we want to get some more up here, but our first 2 are in Atlanta, and we wanted to make them relatively conservative, but we're looking to expand into other parts right now.
Love it, guys. Thanks for the background. And, we'll talk about numbers on your guys' properties in a little bit. But, Cash, something that I want to talk about, because I've noticed that a lot of successful entrepreneurs have some sort of athletic background. And, Marcin, I'm sure you have some sort of background in sports as well.
Not quite as athletic.
This is questions for both you guys. If you guys want to just kind of help, how did that athletic background help you in this business and just entrepreneurship in general?
We know that it's a long road and it's a hard road that not many people take, and we know that you will reap the benefits as long as you keep your nose to the grindstone and work hard day in and day out. It's just like being good at baseball. It took me a while to get to where I was in college, and hopefully we can move quicker through this, but just taking that same work ethic to the Airbnb business is what we know will make us successful.
Yeah, no doubt. And Marcin, anything to add to that, or is Cash the athletic one here?
Yeah, I played some high school sports. We have an older brother who is pretty athletic himself. I've watched it. I guess the thing I can add is just the daily grind, and the idea of habits is gonna be what sets you apart in the days where you could let yourself get down and then not be doing the work. I've seen it from both my brothers really in their athleticism, and what they've taken to baseball is just the hard work that you have to put in. When you wake up in the morning, you've got to schedule for yourself to grind out those habits, whether it's getting your stretching in and then getting a workout in and then hitting straight to the baseball field to get early work in before the practice starts. And as a college baseball player, or my other brother was in professionals, like you already know you've got a long day full of either school, baseball, back to school, back to baseball. And so it just never ends. And it's not a bad thing. It's just more of like accepting that that's how it gets done, is like, it doesn't end, right? It's an everyday thing. So yeah, just to add to that I've seen it from afar.
Yeah, for sure. And I obviously haven't been to you guys' level, right? Played some basketball throughout college or high school, but I think just doing the boring things over and over again, kind of like you guys both mentioned, is something that will pay dividends. You might not see the benefits of it now, but those benefits will come, eventually, if you just kind of stay consistent to it. So I think that's a huge reason why people, have that athletic background that are succeeding in entrepreneurship. So another question for you guys is, obviously there's so many different side hustles, businesses that you can start. So why specifically an Airbnb? Like, what drew you guys to Airbnb? First and foremost, to, want to jump head into that.
I guess we'll start with just the ability to, outside of, we'll just say right now, like right now we're tag teaming or, separating cleaning duties. But outside of that, and finding ways to be able to charge the amount of money that we need to be able to have cleaners clean it and then us still be managing it, but being able to manage something from our phones while we continue to operate the business. We know it's not a fully passive thing, but if you can get it to a point where it is semi-passive, and then you're able to kind of jump in when you need to and then stay away from, necessarily the day-to-day activities when you don't need to. It's something that's very enticing for us, just because we have other passions within, him, baseball, or whether he also does a hair cutting business on the side. And then me, just wanting to be involved with my community in a bunch of different ways, right now with my church, and then being able to do both of those things. So with the traditional 9-to-5 that I had, and it wasn't a 9-to-5, similar to you, I was doing well in a sales career, but I was working, hard, long hours, a lot of commitment to something that I wasn't visioning as like what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And so felt, even the money at that point was good, but you have to at some point make a change to try to do the things that you see, yourself impacting the world in. And real estate is something that I personally wanted to get my family involved in. When I see it, and Cash brought this side of it to us, being able to build wealth through property ownership and having that to be able to pass down to generation and generation, and what that can really do to help continue to sustain families and, keep them together. I know what a piece of property can do for a family. Like we've had a family lake house within our family for 50 years. And it's been something that, different generations have all been able to go to. So there's more things than just create wealth, but really create, friendship and community and families through it. So there's a bunch of different things that kind of led to it, but my side of it was mostly just to be able to pursue the things that I want to do in my life while also creating things for the family that we know we need to have.
Yeah, no, a lot of good stuff in there. So it definitely sounded like it was lifestyle component and also kind of using this vehicle to help lead to, more passion projects or things that you're, more passionate about. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, just kind of leading off to that, because, this is something that I like to talk about and just kind of get a feel for, because, I grew up in a, lower to middle class family, didn't really learn much about money. I've kind of talked about my story on, on the socials, but, you guys being brothers, how were you guys' upbringing? Like, did you guys come from a middle class family? Like, what were your parents' thoughts about money? Things like that. That's always kind of something interesting to understand while, someone like you two that are, being successful in entrepreneurship.
I'd say we came from a middle class family. Our parents sacrificed a lot for us, whether it be taking us and paying for our sports travels, being on a travel team, high school team. We're fortunate that they sent us to a private school in Atlanta. Didn't really have too much to do with like real estate stuff or investments. My mom works in real estate, but as far as like owning real estate, not really.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, I would agree with all that. I think a lot of the investment from our parents in our lives came through the quality time that they sacrificed and the money and decisions they made throughout their lives to help better our lives, to make sure that, we were propelled in whatever it is that we found passion in or wanted to do. It definitely wasn't as much focused maybe on their investments or what they thought would create, financial wealth for them. And then, and of course the family, but that would have taken away from what they would have been able to invest in us, or, in that time, the decisions that they made, that's what they felt, was going on. So I would say for sure, middle class, I mean, we're incredibly blessed, not to say, anything bad about that, but that's where we definitely came from.
Got it. No, for sure. So switching gears a little bit, let's talk about some challenges, because obviously, there are challenges, any business model that you try to go after. So what are some of the challenges that you guys faced when you first started, and how did you overcome those struggles?
So like he kind of alluded to a little bit early on, it wasn't so much that we were hesitant to, whether it's do our first arbitrage deal or whether it's owning a house, definitely more hesitant to trying to jump in initially with buying a house and trying to work and short-term rental through that. We were hesitant with that, but we were also hesitant with, we know you kind of your first 3 short-term rentals, granted you had a lot of experience within real estate, but we're not close to you, right? I think you said 400 miles away or something like that was like your first one that you had. But what we decided to do was start somewhere that was close in, a place that we knew. And it was much more on, I would say, the conservative side of, we know there's always going to be travelers in Atlanta, especially downtown Atlanta. There's just people coming in. So it's, are you able to stand out within the space of, because it is a pretty saturated market, and people always say that word, but are you able to stand out within that? And then can you make it work? And so again, we took a strategy to start right here in Atlanta and have gone from, starting with the one and then working to another one that's maybe in a secondary market of Atlanta, but it has some key components to it that we think are going to help make it profitable, and we were able to get a good deal on it. And we're trying, and like I said, that we're cleaning it right now, and we've been working to figure out, the no cleaning fee versus, moving up into different places. But the struggles I would say that we've had mostly with is the pricing side of things, making sure that not only are we competitive, a month or two out, but are we continuously updating, week to week, day to day, our pricing, how we're going to, starting out as like a new listing, be able to start grabbing bookings from places that, they would have booked at different places, but we're standing out through our photos or through the reviews that we've already gotten saying, this is the place to go. So a struggle that we've definitely faced here recently is this idea of how much are we able to charge and still get the same amount of bookings that we had last month. So like we took approach where, all right, we kind of want to be on the lower end, even though we've got a pretty good product, we want to be on the lower end, see what it looks like to get a lot of bookings, and then start scaling that to where are we getting as much revenue as we want per night and still be able to get the bookings. And so for a second there, from March to April when we were making that transition, we saw a major downtick. And we don't know if that's due to, optimization, the activity within Airbnb, how the pages that we're lining up on, are we on the 8th page for 8 guests or on the 6th page for, 4 guests, how that works. But just the optimization and how much we're working the algorithm and also being competitive with our pricing.
Got it. Yeah. So, that's a lot of good stuff in there. So it sounds like, obviously people, it would be nice if it would just set and forget it, right? But there's always different optimizations, things that you have to, kind of tinker with to make sure that your property is continuing to stand out. And I think the people like you that are constantly in the day-to-day of it, and obviously you don't have to turn this into a full-time job, but, having the right software in place to be able to optimize so that you're still continuing to get those bookings, super key. So obviously I love that you guys are, constantly figuring out ways to optimize your listings. To kind of go back to your first property. So talk to me about, what did that conversation look like initially with the landlord? I'm assuming you guys arbitraged it, right? The first one?
Yep, we arbitraged.
Awesome. So if you want to talk a little bit more about, the story behind how you guys, built the trust of the landlord and ultimately were able to close the deal.
Yeah, I guess I did a handful of that because I think Cash was out of town at the time. I would say this is a lesson learned for anybody that is out there that's trying to do these same things. We were obviously eager, right? 2 or 3 weeks of, getting no's from landlords, whether it's on Zillow or whatever we could find, hot pads. I was in sales, I understand the idea of being told no. It's, it happens. It's going to happen. Still wanting to get that first property. And we actually switched it to Furnish Finder and started reaching out to people through Furnish Finder. We saw this as just something like, all right, they're already willing to, rent out their house maybe on a month basis and they have the furniture and everything like that. Maybe they'll be more receptive to the idea of us coming in and renting out on a 1 to 2 year basis and then using their furniture and then just working the arbitrage that way. So I would say the lesson, some of the biggest lessons we learned in the conversation were don't be afraid to still the initial rent that you're committing to, and they're asking for, go below it, right? Whatever it is that they're asking for, if they're still on the market and everything like that, of course they want to get paid. So I think the initial one that we had that was asking for was around $3,200. And then, the landlord and I started talking. She was open to it. She had, she was up on Furnish Finder. She needed to get the thing booked. The 1 to 2 year deal is very enticing. And so she was like, okay, great. Let's have a conversation. I got to work quick. Let's meet up. So we met up in person at the place. Being new to everything, probably didn't do as much of a good shakedown of all the property elements and everything like that. But, kind of turned out on the lucky side of that where nothing was crazy going too wrong with it. I initially had thrown out a $2,900, $3,000 number and then let her work me back to $3,200, which is what she was asking originally. And again, I think that was partly due to just my eagerness maybe to get the first deal. And right now, we're having a month where we're probably going to end up somewhere around $6,000 in revenue for April. And so there's, we're still doing good, but it's something where if you don't, the first, that deal at the start, what you're paying for in rent, it matters so much because it's going to stress everything else behind it. So, and it's going to make you, work really hard. And I mean, granted, that could be a good thing because of how hard we're working to try to make sure that, we're on top and we're getting the right revenue per night and everything like that. But just that first conversation, that first deal, like, don't ever be afraid to take that chance of going lower than what they're asking for, because all you're going to get is, the worst you're going to get is a no. And then you can continue to work from there. But I think giving a good firm offer and making it a real confident offer and saying, hey, I think we're providing a good deal for you, a good deal for us, and I think it's going to work out. But it doesn't always have to be at the number that they're asking for.
Yeah, I think the main thing that I'm hearing is just stick to your numbers, right? And obviously, if the numbers still pencil out, if you have to, because like I've been in a situation where, the deal looked really good, and they're asking for a little bit more in rent. So I'm like, okay, fine, I'll pay that extra rent to get this deal locked out, because I know I have the spread on the upside if I get it to a certain way. So really a lot of good stuff in there. So for this property, where do you guys obviously you guys have it live, so what are you guys looking at cash flow wise, kind of averaged out throughout the entire year?
So it's only been up for all of February, and the revenue for February was $2,400, which is less than the rent. March was a huge jump, figured out some pricing and just like a happy medium for that, and we went up to $4,950. And then April already, we still have 7 nights open and we're already at, so the revenue has been steadily climbing. And the good thing about April is that we've only had 6 stays at the house, 6 different people, whereas in March we had 11 different stays and just a lot less revenue there. So yeah, we're looking to hit obviously our goal is to do $2,000 a month, and I think we'll hit this goal if we get 1 or 2 more nights, we'll be able to in April.
Yeah, and I would say, like, as far as like our goals for this property, again, when we initially looked at it and ran the numbers, we thought we could conservatively do through Airbnb and like other, competitor pricing and everything like that, somewhere between 70 and 75. And we figured, as a total revenue for the property, and we figured, we'd be somewhere around the 45 to 48 range over the course of the year, paying for expenses and obviously the rent. And so we thought we would be looking right around, $2,000 a month for the property. And that's something that I think is still attainable. Generally May through August, September are the peak months here in Atlanta. But the good thing about Atlanta is if you know how to work everything, like March is not generally the best month, but we were still able to get right around 5,000 on the revenue for the month, and starting to figure things out just our second month in, I thought was encouraging for us. Again, working the stays, so we've had 2 week-long stays for April versus everything in March was maybe 3 days tops. So working the pricing to making sure we're maximizing the stays and the revenue that we're getting for each of them.
Love it. Yeah, I mean, you love to see that kind of steady progression as we lead into the hotter months, because every market's different. When some markets, January, February are the busiest, other markets that could be like the slowest time. So seeing you guys ramp up and come May and through September through your busy seasons, that's where you're going to make your real money. So you love that you've been able to build up that the reviews and also the algorithm to get more bookings, more reviews, and then ultimately you're going to be able to make more money leading up to the hotter season. So you guys are definitely optimizing and trending in the right direction. Something that I want to talk about, because Atlanta being a saturated market, right? What are some ways that you're doing right now to stand out from your competition? Because we're in a couple of competitive markets and we have some strategies and obviously the things that we teach in the program. But what are some ways that you guys are doing to stand out?
I think this is something that we're working through very, very tirelessly. We really want to try to figure out as much as we can on these first couple and this one before we try to go do some bigger deals and everything like that. And something that I've continued to notice, and what I really do is I go look at all of the ones in Atlanta that have 50 5-star reviews, and that's all they got, or 100 5-star reviews, just 5.0, and then I go read their reviews and I go see what are all the things that they're doing right. Because when I go and look at their reviews in Atlanta, in a saturated market, like we said, this is where you're going to find out, what is it that they're doing to set themselves apart. And they've been doing it for a year or two. This listing's been active since 2019. This listing's been active since 2020. And we're coming in at 2023. What can we learn from these people without talking to them? But you're talking to them because their customers are putting out there on these long reviews, everything that they loved about it. So some things that we've definitely found that have been really good is, one, that initial cover picture being something different than everything else. We've seen a lot of cover pictures. Obviously, your centerpiece, right? The living room. It generally, oftentimes, is what that main cover picture is, especially when you're like an in-town stay versus something that's like up in the mountains, or if it's out in the, the West, or if you've got like a big pool or something like that. So trying to spice it up where your eyes are being caught, looking through the Airbnb pages, and something shows up different. And then, like we said, staying on top of the pricing. People, when you go through Price Labs and you look at all the competitors lists, so like we've got neighborhood pricing within Price Labs, and you look at the competitors lists and you see that they've got like stagnant pricing throughout, like everything's 300, 300, 300, 300. And then, but they're still doing pretty good. There's a place that's decently close by to us, and now who knows if this is correct, but this is what AirDNA says, is they've, did a revenue of $75,000 last year, and they're a super host, but all they have is like stagnant pricing of $289. So figuring out ways that you can pick up some week-long stays away from those guys when you have some lower week pricing, and then obviously you're bumping it up on the weekends just to do some stuff.
I'd like to jump in.
Yeah.
We're theming out the houses as well, right? So we have one in downtown that's right by Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which where the Falcons play a bunch of concerts and stuff. So we're theming out this one down here. We're doing a vineyard theme. So we've kind of tricked out the backyard a little bit. We got a trellis, some garden area. And then inside, we've got like some vines. We got a bar cart. We give a free complimentary bottle of wine for every guest that stays there. And then in our other house, we're trying to do a music theme, right? So not just like every house on Airbnb technically is pretty nice, especially those ones up in the top pages. So we're trying to differentiate ourselves by bringing a theme to it, something a little more fun than just a nice house.
No, that's great. And that's something that, love you guys are putting the guest experience first, right? Like because like something that helps me, and something that we are doing with our properties moving forward, is really focusing on the design and having some sort of theme. For example, we have a property in Memphis, Tennessee, where we did like an Elvis theme, right? So we had like Johnny Cash room, an Elvis room. And so you kind of, it's like a fun experience, right? And so there's a lot of different demographics that we can, tag into. And also we noticed that only like 3% of listings have a hot tub in that market. So we put a hot tub, and that is a huge, draw to a lot of our people. And, going back to what you said, Marchant, is, having that first photo is super key, right? Because you scroll through Airbnb, and, if you're in let's say like a Florida market, almost every single picture is going to be of their pool, right? But if you, maybe, have like a really nice centerpiece wall with like some wallpaper, and you take really good photos, like that's going to stand out from, just like another pool. So obviously things that you can tinker and test with, and that's something that I do enjoy. And that's also kind of like a love-hate relationship, because you find something that works well, and then, maybe like the next month it doesn't work as well. So you kind of have to go back and tinker with it. But really love that you guys are.
Speaking of the hot tub thing, I know you said that you did that in Memphis, and like obviously Atlanta, Memphis, pretty similar of like how hot it is, around like the summertime and everything like that. Have you had any experiences? We actually purchased a hot tub. Haven't really made a move on it where we want to put it. We just found a good deal, and we thought that it would be a good place to put in somewhere. But like, what experiences have you had with like maintaining with it? And then do you think, how much is it driving, do you think, revenue and occupancy in that Memphis location?
I think it does like 30 to 40% of like our total average daily rate. I think it's a huge draw. Like, and I know, like Memphis, it gets hot, right? But, you'd be surprised. I don't know like what the numbers look like in Atlanta, but I think it's definitely worth it, especially if you have one. Now, the main thing is you have to find someone that's really good at maintaining it, because guests don't care about, your features, right? Like meaning like they're going to go in there with like a bunch of lotion. They might not have showered in 2 weeks. Like, so the hot tubs can get really gross if you don't have someone maintaining it. And so we have found someone that does a good job of maintaining our hot tubs. But yeah, if you guys are the ones doing it yourselves, then you got to make sure that you take care of it, maintain it after each stay, from our experience, or else it gets really gross fast.
Yeah, that's definitely something that we've run into. And I think, just because like you said, there's nobody in this area that we've got one of our places that has a hot tub. I think it's like one place inside of like a very large radius, and that was the initial thought, and we just don't necessarily have the best place to put it, so that also hurts too. But just trying to make the decision on that is something, it's kind of like one of those either you go all in on it and then you got to keep it maintaining and everything like that and you hope it works versus, there's not a real like test out period. You either go all in or, it's not. So, yeah, that's something that we run into.
Yeah, I mean, if you have it, like it doesn't hurt to at least give it a shot, right? So that's kind of where I see it. But no, you guys are obviously killing it. So let's talk about future goals. You guys have your second property up and running already. That's awesome. So what do your goals look like for the rest of this year? Where do you guys want to be at profit wise each month, and also properties?
I think we're trying to figure that out as well right now. Like what? So we're in this, right, and we're cleaning these 2 properties right now. Again, this is something that we're just sharing our real experiences through this. Is how do we want this business to look for us? Do we really want to be working in this business every day doing that, hard labor type stuff? Not every day that we're cleaning, obviously. If we've got a week-long stay, we got a week-long stay, so it happens once a week. But if you got 2 properties, it starts to add up. So like, what is our real goals? Which customers are we trying to serve? And I think when we look at ourselves and we say, like, what did we initially get in this for? Is obviously to be able to, gain real estate wealth through owning properties. So we definitely want to own properties. And then we also want to be able to manage it or have somebody else help us manage it without having to be there on site doing cleaning and everything like that. So we're asking ourselves those big questions of like, where do we really see ourselves 10 years from now? And are we working towards that right now? Or are we getting stuck in this cycle of, just managing these couple, and what are we working to progress at? So I think it's something that we're definitely asking ourselves that question.
Yeah, and we want to obviously scale quickly. That's how this business will work. If you wanted to be able to cash flow to then be able to buy some properties. So it's kind of like now we're at the point where we want a third one, but we want to be able to make that third one automated, right? So we don't have to go and clean it. And then it's just that jump right now. It's a little scary because then we'll be, more hands off, whereas these 2, they're close and they're hands on. But say we get one further away where we're not able to go to it as often, and then you're relying on cleaners. If you have any advice, we'd like to hear it.
Yeah, I think the first thing that I would do with you guys, maybe even after we get off this phone, is to call around and find a cleaner for your 2 properties now. Because like Atlanta, I'm sure you have a huge pool of talent that you can choose from. Obviously that's probably the biggest thing, just because once you find a good cleaner, it doesn't matter. Like, even if my property was in my backyard, I still wouldn't clean it, because that is a huge time suck, and also kind of is like a lower dollar task that you can outsource pretty quickly. And kind of going back to if you should charge a cleaning fee, like, I mean, we're kind of testing it out on our properties, but obviously we increase our daily rate so that the cleaning fee, even if we don't charge a cleaning fee, it's kind of offset. But that's a cost that you can just pass on to your guests. And so I think that's the main thing that I would do, is first try to find a cleaner. You can test them out in a couple cleans, and you have the luxury of being able to go and check out on the properties after they're done cleaning to see if they've actually done a good job. But that's number one, because like, honestly, the cleaners kind of act as a property manager of sorts, because they're going to be there multiple times per week. If you find a good one, they can let you know of things going on, things that, might need to be, maintained. They can honestly probably do a better job cleaning than you guys can yourselves. So that's the biggest thing. And I think you'll be able to scale as much and quickly as you want after you outsource that one thing.
Yeah. And it's, the way we want to scale, right? Do we want to look into something that's creating us some cash flow, but it's also, we're renting it out, or do we want to scale into something that we're buying? And we're not, of course you can get stuck in the analysis paralysis. I think the biggest reason why we're cleaning right now is because we wanted to get these properties creating as much, I guess, cash for us, in these first few months while we're getting reviews for them. It's really tough, I'm not saying it's tougher, but unless your property is just like up and away the coolest thing ever, those first few months while you're getting reviews and everything like that, that's where, we can bleed some money. And we've got the time right now to be able to, get these properties figured out and get the reviews in while we're cleaning for the first, because we just wanted to see what it would take for these properties to keep them up and maintained. And then we'll get to the cleaner. And then also, if we try to charge a cleaning fee, are we still getting that booking? We are charging cleaning fees, but if we're charging $175 cleaning fee when it costs, cleaner to come in $150, are we still getting the $175 and as many bookings, or do our bookings just tank versus like $100 cleaning fee? And again, it's just things that we're testing. So I think that is definitely the plan. I think something that we set out necessary, or I guess initially, was probably 5 properties within the first year, 5 to 10. And that depends on, how successful are the ones that you're choosing the first 2. So that kind of is all dependent. But we would love, of course, to have, we'd envisioned 5 to 10 properties and, $15,000 to $20,000 worth of profit that's flowing within our first couple years each month.
Yeah, and I think at the rate you guys are going at, like, it's more than doable, right? I think it's just a matter of, kind of, and you having each other, helping each other grow this business is also a huge, benefit as well. So, as long as you guys, delegate and figure out the right tasks to do, then I think you guys can scale this thing pretty quickly because you guys obviously have the skills to acquire these properties.
We haven't found as much trouble with just talking to landlords. Like, we're both pretty good at talking, and we can talk with people. We just got to make sure we're making the right deals, the right deals, right places. And that comes to research. And I think that's something that we're learning more and more how to do. You can be eager to jump into something and not do all the research. And then, you get blindsided. And then there's also a sense where you do way too much research and you're not able to make a decision. But I think there is a right amount of research that you need to be doing on each market and calling around and not being lazy and just seeing maybe a good deal or what you thought was a good deal and then not doing the proper route of research or inspection on the house.
Yeah, 100%. I think you guys have a good problem to have because I think a lot of people struggle with the analysis paralysis and, saying like, oh, I talked to 5 landlords and all of them said no, but you being in sales, that it's a numbers game at the end of the day. And obviously you're not afraid to go out and make those calls. So, to wrap this up, this question's for both of you guys. What advice would you give to someone that's either considering, toying around with the idea of starting an Airbnb business? What advice would you give to that person?
Yeah, I think we've been talking about it a lot, and I'll let Cash go after this. I'll keep it short. Before you even go to get your first one, I think you need to be asking yourself the questions of, who is it that you want to serve? If you were going to go to this place, would you want to be there yourself? And then do the research. Don't be afraid to, ask yourself the hard questions of what are you going to do in a situation where it's not working, and are you putting yourself in a situation where it's gonna impact your family, like financially or something like that. Like, don't necessarily just jump off the cliff on the first one and do the $10,000 a month place in an awesome the Highlands or out at the beach in Savannah or something like that. Figure out what's in your comfort zone and then push through that a little bit. And get a little bit out of the comfort zone, but don't do that without not doing the research and making sure you know what you're getting into.
Advice, in order to be successful, you got to stand out, whether it's through your customer service. I know we've taken that to heart, really, and we've read separate books from the Ritz-Carlton owner, and through that we've gotten really good reviews, and you got to be super hands-on. In our experience, we've been super hands-on with our first couple, and that will lead us to more success in being able to scale. But yeah, just standing out in some sort of way, like he was saying, a place that you would actually want to go to. Don't just throw something up online. Make it special in some sort of way.
Love it, guys. All right. Well, thanks for the time. Thanks for hopping on here. And we'll talk to you guys soon.